Welcome to this explainer. We're going to jump right in. Picture this. It's the year 1187. You're standing beneath a blazing, just merciless Middle Eastern sun. Before you is a literal sea of armored knights. The Crusader kingdom of Jerusalem has survived for nearly 90 years at this point, and its warriors, they firmly believe they are completely unstoppable. But look up to the distant hills. There is a single commander watching them in total, chilling silence. His name is Salahuddin. And within days, this silent watcher is going to dismantle one of the most powerful armies of the medieval world and permanently alter the course of human history.
You know, there's an old saying, some conquer kingdoms, legends conquer history. And honestly, that perfectly captures the epic scale of his legacy. Because as we'll see, legends aren't really born on the battlefield. Saladin's legendary status actually began long before the swords ever clashed, in a quiet place that almost no one remembers. To understand how he conquered history, we have to look at exactly where he started.
Part 1. The Unlikely Scholar.
Let's rewind the clock a bit, more than 50 years before that blazing sun in 1187. Born into an age of absolute chaos in the city of Tikrit, right near the banks of the Tigris River, Salahuddin belonged to a highly respected Kurdish military family. The Middle East at this time was completely fractured. You had Muslim rulers constantly fighting each other, kingdoms were collapsing left and right, and the Crusaders were steadily expanding their grip over the Holy Land in Jerusalem. Now, if you were a noble kid in a military household during this era, you were expected to become a warlord. That was the path. You sought fame through violence. But young Salahuddin, he was entirely different. He showed almost zero interest in being a famous warrior. He actually preferred learning. He dove into the Quran, history, mathematics, law, the principles of justice. He was this quiet boy who rarely spoke without thinking, who listened way more than he argued, and who kept his cool while everyone else was losing their tempers. And nobody realized that these quiet traits were going to become his absolute most devastating weapons.
His core philosophy was already taking shape. Victory is never only about winning battles. A divided nation cannot defeat a united enemy. This really hit home for him when his father entered the service of Nur ad-Din Zengi, who was a leader dreaming of uniting the Muslim lands to reclaim Jerusalem. Following the armies across Syria, young Salahuddin saw the true, devastating realities of war firsthand: destroyed cities, fleeing families. He realized that a lot of leaders cared way more about their own power than actual unity, and that taught him a crucial lesson that would shape every single decision he made for the rest of his life.
Part 2. Uniting a divided world.
So history was rapidly moving toward this quiet officer, and it was about to drop him right into Egypt. At the time, Egypt was one of the richest, yet most politically unstable and vulnerable places on earth. The great general Shirkuh was sent in to secure collapsing Egypt, and he brought a relatively unknown Saladin by his side. But then General Shirkuh dies unexpectedly, and Egypt faces an impossible choice for a new leader. They ended up choosing the underestimated Saladin, basically thinking, hey, he'll be easy to control. Well, they were incredibly wrong. Instead of seeking revenge or ruling with an iron fist, he restored order. He strengthened the economy, protected civilians, and rebuilt trust. He knew an army could never defeat the Crusaders if they were divided, so he patiently used negotiation, strategic alliances, and, sometimes force, to unite the fractured Muslim lands under one single banner.
But then, everything changed. Enter Reynold of Chatillon. He was a Crusader leader who, in 1187, completely shattered the existing peace agreements. He ruthlessly attacked Muslim caravans, captured travelers, stole goods, and, this is the real kicker, he directly threatened the holy cities of Mecca and Medina. For Saladin, this crossed a massive line. It was no longer just politics. The peace was broken. War was now absolutely inevitable. This singular event forced Saladin's hand, leading him to summon a massive, united Muslim army from across Syria, Egypt, and the surrounding deserts.
Part 3. The Master of Strategy.
The stage was officially set. In the merciless summer of 1187, the Crusader army marched across burning plains toward a location known as the Horns of Hattin. They mistakenly believed that moving fast would bring them an easy victory, but Saladin, he systematically dismantled this seemingly unstoppable force like a giant puzzle. First, he secured the wells and lakes, completely cutting off the Crusaders' access to water. Under that scorching sun, thirst quickly became their greatest enemy. Then, as night fell, he ordered fires lit across the surrounding hills. The dry wind pushed blinding smoke directly into the exhausted Crusader camp, making sleep literally impossible. So when morning broke and the battle finally exploded, Saladin just remained perfectly calm, watching every single movement. Whenever the enemy weakened or tried to make a run for it, he meticulously closed every single path of escape.
The aftermath was just total,
absolute devastation for the Crusader forces. Their formation completely collapsed. Their famous, highly trained knights were surrounded. King Guy of Jerusalem was captured, right alongside Reynald of Chatillon, the very man who'd so brazenly broken the peace in the first place. But most importantly, the Crusader military power was utterly broken. With this incredible strategic victory at Hattin, the road to Jerusalem was left completely wide open.
Part 4. Conquest through Mercy. A few weeks after the Battle of Hattin, Saladin's armies surrounded the holy city of Jerusalem. Now, it had been in Crusader hands for nearly 90 years. The entire world was basically holding its breath, expecting an absolute massacre. I mean, history had seen so many of them, and everyone was bracing for rivers of blood. But instead, the world witnessed something almost unbelievable. Upon entering the city, there was no mass slaughter. None. No revenge taken against innocent civilians. Christian inhabitants were allowed to leave safely after paying a ransom. And what about the poorer citizens who couldn't afford it? They were actually freed through acts of mercy by Saladin and his commanders. Places of worship were fiercely protected. He proved to the world that he was a liberator who spared the innocent, absolutely shocking his enemies with his profound sense of honor.
Part 5. A Legacy Beyond Wealth. The fall of Jerusalem absolutely shook Europe to its core, and it triggered the Third Crusade. This brought one of Europe's most feared and famous rulers, Richard the Lionheart of England, straight to the Holy Land, setting up what is honestly one of history's greatest rivalries. They fought these fierce, exhausting battles across the entire region. But, as the saying goes, even in the middle of war, honor was greater than hatred. There is this incredible historical anecdote that just perfectly illustrates this. When Richard the Lionheart became seriously ill during one of their campaigns, Saladin didn't press the attack. He didn't take advantage of it. Instead, he sent him fresh fruit, cooling drinks, and even made his own personal physicians available to his mortal enemy. It was a move that amazed literally everyone, and it eventually led to a peace agreement that allowed Christian pilgrims to visit Jerusalem peacefully once again.
So, let's think about this. After a lifetime of uniting a completely fractured world, defeating unstoppable armies, and ruling a vast, powerful empire, what did he actually leave behind? Zero. Literally zero. When Salahuddin died in 1193, his servants searched his possessions and found that he had left behind almost zero personal wealth.
Now, you might be wondering, how on earth does an emperor die with nothing? Well, he gave it all away to serve his people. He poured his wealth into helping the poor, supporting his soldiers, building schools, and funding hospitals. His legacy wasn't measured in gold coins or treasure, it was measured in justice, mercy, courage, and honor.
Which leaves us with this final, really profound question. If history remembers conquerors by what they take, how did a man become a legend? By what he gave away? It's something to seriously think about. Salahuddin proved that true strength isn't found in the swing of a sword, but in wisdom. His greatest victory was never about conquering a physical city. It was about conquering fear, division, and hatred. And that is exactly why his legend continues to inspire millions, over 800 years later. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. I really hope you found it as fascinating as I did.